Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker with a oolong tea to try today. Oolong, doubled with a W-U for oolong or a O-O for oolong. Same kind of. They both originate from the same Chinese characters. So I'm scooping out enough here to cover the bottom inch and a half of my 3-ounce gaiwan. I'm just going to kind of cover that for just a moment. My water's been brought to an early boil, started to rumble, not a full rolling boil. I'm going to add enough water, as usual, if you've watched a video before, to cover or to rise up just above the rim of my lid when I put it on. Gaiwans are fairly inexpensive. I mean, you can get the ornate ones, you can get gaiwans of different size, but they're fairly versatile. Fairly convenient way. There's a little bit of practice you may want as far as getting familiar with how to hold and pour, but once you do, it's fairly easy to clean. Not a very complex system. Could be useful, easily set aside for on the desk or wherever for work or wherever you're enjoying tea. So let me talk a little bit about this tea. This is, like I said, an oolong. This is from China. Chadao is the company. This is their premium almond phoenix dansong. Dansong being a kind of oolong tea that comes from Guangdong province. In this particular case, from the Chaozhou area of Guangdong province. The dansong teas often get classified into. Some of them have an almond type of fragrance. Some of them have more of a honey type fragrance. So there can be different classifications. Not that there's any kind of added ingredient. It's that these particular sets or kinds of dansong exhibit different floral and aromatic and flavor components. You can get 4.4 ounces of this particular tea for $10.99 currently on the China Chadao's website. That's $10.99 US dollars. This is a spring harvest, and China Chadao will even tell you a little bit about where they source the tea. This particular one was sourced from the SMCD Tea Company. So I'm going to go ahead and start talking a little bit about this tea, starting off with the dry leaf and moving on to the wet leaf and the liquor. Give us a shake. I'm not getting a lot of aroma, so I'm going to exhale and use the warm moisture of my breath to kind of draw it a little bit more. When I do that, I do get a warm. It is a kind of a warm, nutty. Some of the dansongs gravitate more towards a roasted peach, roasted stone fruit, maybe even grapefruit skin. Not necessarily the citrusy, sour aspect of the grapefruit, but there's if you were to squeeze the skin and draw out a grapefruit oil essence, some of that kind of smell going on here. Well, it was some dansongs. This one, it's there, but it's underneath. It's the more is the roasty, kind of more of a nutty type of. But there is still some of that stone fruit, grapefruit type aroma underneath. Okay, pulling out a few of these leaves before I get ahead of myself. You'll notice that they are long and wiry. These are, compared to other dansongs I've seen, these are a bit more towards the darker brown, gray, bister type colors. You can get some that move back towards a dark, rich, rust, brown, red type of color. These in length, I've seen some that are longer. These are a little bit shorter on average than some of the others I've seen, but still these are, say, 2 inches, maybe 3 inches in some cases in length. Okay, look to be individual leaves, wiry, kind of twisted, wrapped along middle vein of the leaf. You do get some portions that, of course, are smaller than that. Some variation. They're not always completely uniform. Some breakage sometimes occurs. So, having looked at that, I am going to now get ready to pour. Angle my lid over to the side. Middle finger and thumb on the rim of my bowl here. Temperature issues. You want to choose a nice gaiwan that doesn't transfer a lot of heat to the rim where you're holding. Otherwise, you're talking about burning fingers, or at least scalding your fingers there on the ceramic. Now, I'm going to talk about the wet leaf here and get into that a little bit. So start off with the smell. Give that a shake. Loosen those up a little bit. And again, nice wood, roasty. I'm getting a kind of a dried, aged kind of wood. Not quite, not pine, more oaky, more heavy, seasoned wood. Not a raw, fresh cut type of wood. Again, the nuttier aspect is standing out more. There is more of that almond type flavor coming out now. Lightly roasted almond type of smell. Dried almond. Okay, we pull out a few of these leaves here. There's still a sweetness there. It is more of a kind of a sweet type of almond smell. Pulling out these leaves. They're not as dark as they appeared when in the dry leaf form. They are now more of a darker olive drab type of green. You can see sections not always fully consistent of oxidation on the edge of these leaves. So you've got some brownish rust red type colors along those. I'll pull out a few more. They can pretty much easily unfurl. They're not tightly wrapped. There's got some elasticity to these. Dunsongs generally have larger, more mature leaves than some other kinds of teas, so that you don't want something that's just too old and just rips apart. Some youthful vigor that's remaining can be a good thing. This particular leaf I picked out has more oxidation. Oxidation kind of runs along the middle vein from tip to tip of this leaf, and along the edges as well. So I'm going to put that in there too. Oxidation is what often elicits a lot of the flavor and aroma, the compounds that create that, the oxidation that takes place. Okay, I'm going to go on now to the liquor here. Give that a swirl. Golden, kind of a golden nutty brown, a darker, an Indian pale ale type of darker brown, gold brown color there. Okay. More almondy. I have to say, I have had some almond. From what I recall, I remember having almond type Dunsongs that were less almond and more other component. This one seems to have more consistently almond type characteristics. Okay. Still it looks nice, bright in the cup here too. Give that a taste. Again, consistent in that almond type characteristic. Other Dunsongs that I come across, they often have a smarter astringency to them, a tart kind of bite to them as well. This one is milder in that sense. The texture isn't as apparent at first. At first sip, the front of my tongue, this felt thinner, lighter, watery. it's almost as if there's a line drawn across my tongue about in the middle, so that the front feels very little, far less texture than the back half. The back half feels this kind of coating. It's a powdery kind of texture, still sitting, and it's holding. It's got a kind of a nice duration. It's not off-putting. So and underneath that, it's still as if that aftertaste still gives the effect of having eaten a mouthful of say roasted nuts, roasted almond, almond butter even. Okay, there are those characteristics. Not a lot of sweetness building or resonating in the aftertaste, but a tad, again, more of a gentle, lighter, nutty type of sweetness. I swirl this around. I still get the honey roasted almond, that smell and taste. The smell is traveling into my nose. The taste is swirling around in my mouth. As this cools, it is getting more pronounced in its flavors and aroma. Okay, so this is something you might want to taste right as it's warm, as hot as you can stand it, and then again as it backs off a little bit closer to room temperature, just to see the variations and differences that can happen within just one cup here. Looking at this dansong in relation to other dansongs, like I said, more consistent and more pronounced almond type of characteristics in this particular dansong, with less of the astringent dryness that's going on, the less of the kind of a tart, bitter type of bite to it. Not so much bitter, but a very tart. Less of that, very low. Texture, on par, slightly a little higher than some of the others. Aftertaste, milder, but smoother and mellower, I would say. I would give this one better than a lot of the others, so I would have to say about a 91. Come back to Walker Tea Review to learn more about dansongs in general and about other kinds of tea.